Oh, that'd be sick.
Well, let's hear Kathy up in Wisconsin. It sounds like you have an interesting personal paranormal experience you want to tell us about. How are you, Kathy?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Pretty
Great.
Good. So yeah, unlike I guess everybody else, my experience is not in my home. I am not a person who like overly believes. I'm not overly religious. I took Hebrew scriptures in college. I am well versed on the Bible itself. So I'm very theological based when it comes to religion. But I have had a couple experiences in my life that make it very difficult for me to pretend that things that I can't see don't exist. One of that is just science-based. Matter is never, it's not created nor destroyed. So it's always just kind of pushed in one way or the other. So when you pass, it's got to go somewhere. So just that basic theory. It's got to go somewhere. But one huge thing that happened to me that kind of just makes me believe that I'm not the only person inhabiting this space around me is when I was in high school, I was driving to my job. And if you're from the Illinois Oak Forest area, there's a street called Central. It goes straight down and it crosses Bulmer in this really awkward location where it's almost, it's technically a straightaway, but you have to kind of like turn to the left to go straight. I took that path every day to work. I worked with my dad, and I was driving along the road, and my car radio changed abruptly to a different radio station, to an oldie that I did not have pre-programmed, that I could not find after this incident because I did pull over to the side of the road because I was pretty spooked. And when it changed, it played a song, if you're familiar with some oldies, called Blueberry Hill. I immediately slammed on my brakes because that was a song that my grandfather used to sing to me all the time when I was a kid, and I was like distressed. I slammed on my brakes, and when I did, an 18-wheeler went through the red light, accidentally honking its horn the entire time, saying like, I can't stop. So it took a lot of processing of that day until I was like well into my 20s. Of like, I went through the like, it was just coincidence. It was just a coincidence. It was really hard for me to think that it was just a coincidence. One, that song never plays on the radio. I could not find the station a second after that. It was the most wild experience. And then in college, I had a similar experience. I was having a really low point in my life in college, not doing well grade-wise, got out of a really bad abusive relationship. I was at a McDonald's with some friends, and I saw an old man kind of hobble in and order food, sit down. He reminded me of my grandfather. So when he was done eating, I went to grab his tray, and I said, hey, I got it. Like, don't hobble over to the, I don't want to see you struggle. I'll grab it for you. I grabbed it from him. I turned around, and he said, thanks, Cass. And I threw his trash away, and it took me a second to process. I turned around, and by the time I turned around, he was getting into like a Meals on Wheels car, and he looked right at me, and he did this like wink and like head grab with like his hat that my grandfather used to always do to me when he walked me to school. So those are like two instances that are like, for me, 100% undeniable. It's not like a creak in my house or anything like that.
Right. Can I hop in? Can I hop in, Kathy?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
So, are you familiar with the concept of a fish story, right? Where we catch a fish and then the next time we tell it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Are you familiar with that concept?
Absolutely.
Cool. So I don't necessarily think that's what's happening here. What I wanted to bring up, though, was one of the reasons why some of these fish stories really stick with us is because our brain does this thing. Our brain really likes attention. Whenever you can just kind of go, hey, it's all about you right now, buddy. It just lights up the board. It loves that crap. That's why we see patterns everywhere, is because we kind of want this, this crazy world to make sense to us and to be focused on us. And I guess what comes to mind to me is it seems like both of these experiences were ones that were kind of traumatic or kind of important. Like, you know, you saw somebody that reminded you of your grandfather who had passed not long ago, and maybe with these experiences or that truck barreling through it, maybe that stuck a little bit harder in your brain, and then from there we kind of elaborated on the rest of the telling. Does that make sense? Do you think that's a possibility, or am I just way off page here?
I definitely understand what you're saying. So I am an anthropology major and a psychology minor. I also have a almost complete minor in sociology. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the theories and probabilities of what you're talking about. That incident, the only person that I've really ever told, I've told 3 people: my mom, my dad. Well, I guess no, 5, because I told you guys,
Sure.
and probably whoever's
Sure.
listening. My mom and my dad, the day it happened, so I was driving to work with my father. And I told my cousin at my grandmother's grave. So my grandfather in that incident had passed with the truck incident, had passed 5 years before that. And the incident in college had passed 10 years before that. So I wouldn't associate it really with like the recent passing. My grandfather and I weren't actually super close. So I don't have any like, oh, you know, my wonderful grandfather who walked me to school every day. My grandfather was kind of a jerk. So it was always like wild for me to be like, why him?
Yeah.
Like that, like tiny memory of a child of him holding me and like being nice to me was probably like the only nice memory that I have of him.
Sure.
Which is why I'm like so wild that would be the only thing. So that's the only nice thing that I can think of. Because even when he like would tip his hat and like kind of wink at me, it was always after he said something like being an absolute douche.
Oh,
My
sorry.
grandfather was just a really giant Russian jerk.
Yeah.
Russian Polak jerk. But I do understand like a concept of fish stories.
Yeah.
But that story has really, honestly and truly, never changed.
Yeah. Well,
the Blueberry Hill part.
if I can just jump back in, Kathy, I hate to cut you off. We are coming up to the end, and I think there's a lot of really cool stuff here that, again, hey, call back into the show next week and talk some more with some people. Just real quick to wrap this up, I think really what I was trying to get at is that when there are things out there that happen to us, you know, we're the narrator of our own story, right? We are the star of our own movie going on in our head, and everything about the world is directed at each one of us individually. And I think what happens with us a lot of times is when we see those things, whether they're real or not, we kind of take them on board and we hold on to them really, really strongly. And I guess for me, what I'm wondering is, how do we know for sure that isn't what's happening? And again, I'm so sorry that we're right at the end and we got to let you go. But I don't know if you've heard, there's a fantastic Facebook, a Twitter, a Discord after show. Please come hang out with us there and tell us some more, Kathy, or give us a call back next week. Okay.
Absolutely, will do. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.